Welcome to the CTO Studio. I talk with Vidya Dinamani. Yes, she's from New Zealand, and yes, I'm from South Africa, but we got along just fine. And yes, she's a product person and I'm a CTO person. We nailed it.
I have a wonderful electronic invention I want you to see. It looks something like this.
Welcome to the CTO Studio. I'm your host, Etienne de Bruin. The CTO Studio is where we chat with CTOs building amazing products with incredible teams. Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Vidya, welcome to the CTO Studio.
Thank you, Tien.
Do you know this is a CTO Studio?
I do, because it says it on the door.
Great. My first question to you is, what is it like working with me?
Well, it has been a thrill and a joy every second. Like the last year has flown by.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for saying that.
I'll tell you the truth later.
I met you when we both joined a startup in a, I guess, semi-advisory / partner level, and we're building this awesome product.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Do you really think it has legs and is going places?
I really do.
So as a product person, you saw this product and you thought, I'm in.
What I saw was there's several things I looked for. One, is it solving a big need? And it clearly was. Two, is it something that we could do and we had the right people around the table? And then three, is it early enough and interesting enough and big enough that we could actually make a lot of money one day? Check. So here we are.
And so I have the same three questions. I have three questions I also consider before I join a startup. One, do they have not only the ability to describe the problem, but have some wireframes for the solution? Mm-hmm. In other words, has the founder thought through what the solution looks like? Mm-hmm. Two, do they have an unfair advantage in the marketplace? Mm-hmm. So can they surgically insert it into the market? Mm-hmm. And three, are they willing to put any of their own money into this idea? Up to 10, 20, 30 grand
whatever they can.
Line of credit. Mm-hmm. And when I see those three things, I think, wow, maybe I should consider this.
Okay.
And I think what do you think about that?
I think that's great. I think the piece that I would say is missing is the customer need, right? Because you can have a lot of those things. You can have really good people, you can have sort of a problem, etc. But is that really solving something that's a need out there? And when we met the CEO, she clearly described what the need was because she had it. And then we could prove out with the group of people, who are an amazing group of people, we could prove out that this need was replicated in multiple people. And it made a difference because people's eyes light up when they say you've got a solution. You know you're onto something when you can solve that kind of problem.
And probably with many startups, they probably do stop short from asking that question.
Yeah.
Like I know I can get this into the market. I have an idea of what the solution is.
Yep.
I have some money.
Yep.
But then you're just building a mousetrap.
And then I think I love Agile, but it has trapped so many people. Because this whole idea that you can build quickly and you can launch and you can get things out there means that people are on this cycle of like, well, I'll build it and I'll test it and I'll build it and I test it. And it's like, wait a second, we could build and test for years and have absolutely nothing. What you want to do is you want to solve a need. And if you get that right, then you're onto something that you can actually expand and build on.
Do you have any pragmatic way to find out if customers have a genuine need? Mm-hmm. Because there's also the problem with surveys where people might say they have the need, but they aren't necessarily willing to pay for a solution.
Yeah, that's an amazing question. I think the only way that's really worked for us is you've got to observe it, right? If you say, and I'll give you a great example, back in my old Intuit days, people would say they want a budget. Right? Ask any one of us and we're like, well, of course I want a budget. You want to be good. It's your aspirational need, right? When I'm this perfect person, I'm going to work out every day, I'm going to have a budget, everything's going to be wonderful. but they won't buy any budgeting software because fundamentally it's not really a need they have, it's a need they think they should have. So it's observation of behavior. What do they do? How are they working the solution? That's how you understand whether there's a true need, not just by what people say.
So by observation, can I go into a company and shadow people? Is it that level of observation?
Absolutely. It's the number of times I've followed people home. It doesn't sound, I know it sounds creepy, but it's not. And you just watch, or you follow people to the office. You can use proxies if you don't really have someone that you can follow. Find someone who does something similar, but you have to observe. It's so much of listening and learning and watching that lets you get that aha moment, that insight that turns into this product that's amazing.
So in the company that we're building called Lash, I guess Nicole, the founder, was surfacing that need based on something she was doing on Facebook Live. So that would be the observation phase, that she observed that reconciling all those transactions was a challenge. Therefore, let's build a platform where you can sell something through live video and a one-click purchase.
So there's a couple of really, absolutely. One of the things that she found was that you could make a significant amount of sales very fast. The social engagement factor. So people who wanted to get to an audience, you could sell very, very quickly. She had a problem in that she couldn't fulfill those orders, right? That's where our platform comes in. But the actual need is these vendors, it's really expensive marketing. It's really expensive building an audience. But if you can kind of get to a platform where you can put up a good, people are looking for artisanal all the time, and then you have a very quick way socially of selling it, that's the need, right? You're solving both sides through our platform, but you're solving logistics along the way.
So that's interesting. The high number of sales very quickly. I think that's something I haven't even thought of as in observing the problem. So let's say I'm a startup and we've built our MVP. Product works. Technically, it's doing everything that the founders want. But the go-to-market strategy is still sort of being fleshed out, and you get invited to join one of their meetings to kind of, because the MVP isn't quite taking off, or the are there some telltale things that you can read in the room that can either tell you, oh, they are really on the wrong tracks and this isn't going to go nowhere no matter how much money they spend, versus, man, they just need a little more sales and marketing push to get there?
Yeah. There's two things. There's two questions that I think that anybody can ask. One is they get everyone to write down what do they think problem they're solving is. And
everyone on that team.
Everyone on the team, just give them 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and just say, write down, what problem are we solving? And then get people to read it out. Are you on the same page? Because if you're not, and invariably in teams that we come into, people think they're solving different needs. And it's such a simple thing to do, but just have your team do it, right? Just write it down. The second is who. Who's your customer? One of the problems that we see all the time is that people paint, you want to build this big roadmap, you want tons of customers, and so you paint with very broad brushstrokes the kind of person you want. It's like women between 25 and 50. It's demographics. And so you don't understand exactly who you're creating this product for. When you don't have that, you can be putting out features and functions constantly, and it's that problem you just talked about, which is we're building, but we're not really getting traction. We're putting more money into it. But where are you putting your money? If you don't understand how to spend your marketing dollars because you haven't narrowed down your customer, it's just a waste of money. So those two questions, is everyone on the same page with what we're doing? And is everyone on the same page with who? And is it, the word I use is uncomfortably narrow with who? Then you can get traction. You can really solve that problem. Then you can pour that marketing fuel on it.
And so when you see disparate answers, or the CEO feeling strongly about it versus the rest of the team, So that's when the sort of the yellow flag goes up for you.
Yeah, it's like a red flag, actually. It's a big red flag. And so we end up going back to basics, which is let's get our value proposition right. Let's make sure we know exactly what we're doing. And then let's talk to some customers. Let's go observe them.
Is it possible to do that before you've written any code?
Absolutely.
And do you think it's required before you write any code?
Okay, so you're talking to a product person. So yes, the answer to that. And I'm sorry, all you technical people out there, but I think you should. And I think anyone in technology should ask the question, especially from a CTO perspective, is how do you know? How do you know that what we're solving is the right thing to solve? It's a question that you have every right to have evidence of customer research, real customer feedback, videos, texts, podcasts, whatever it is. Like, get some evidence to say we're really onto something and this is how we know.
That I think is interesting, because I find that when in my journey of growing as a CTO, I found that the day I started saying to my CEO and my partners, I know you want to build this, but I need some evidence that this is really a need, was a game changer in the C-suite, because now it wasn't just, hey, I'm the little techie who has to go and build it. It was, okay, well, now the responsibility lies with the C-suite or the executive team to go and provide that evidence.
I think that that's such an important thing for you to have done, and so many people don't do it. And so many people just expect the technology team to go build, and you're waiting. And how do you know what you're building? This is why you get all this refactoring. It's why you get all these kind of like architectural changes, because fundamentally what you were trying to do wasn't clearly articulated. And so you want to get something out there. The company's eager to get something built. And so this momentum just takes over. But if you stop it, even for a really short amount of time, and ask that question, it's such a game changer.
Do you think, is there a way to just gently insert that into a conversation that doesn't come across as being an ass?
I was going to say, what word is you going to use? Are we going to get bleeped out right now? No, you can absolutely do it without being a total ass. I mean, I think the way that you talk about it is, help me understand, ask, that.
Help me understand.
Yeah. I mean, it's a powerful phrase. It's not about, I'm not blaming you. I'm trying to learn. Help me understand so that I can plan better. I'd like a little bit more information to take back to the team. Let's talk about this more. Tell me why. Why is another great sort of question that isn't threatening. It's just, can you tell me more about why we're doing this?
So if we're a cash-strapped startup,
I don't know about that at all.
The CEO is trying to get stuff built, and I come in and say, tell me why you think we should build this. What evidence do we have from the marketplace? At that point, a mature response would be, I'm thrilled that you asked, here's the evidence.
Yeah.
An immature response would be, dude, I'm the CEO.
Do what I say. Yeah. And mature and immature, I think there's stress involved, as we know, when we get to situations. There's investors, there's the clock doesn't stop ticking. I think instead of stopping in its tracks, do we need to course correct? Do we need to focus? We're running out of money. How do we carefully sort of articulate what it is? How do we spend our scarce resources? There's ways of talking about, I'm partnering with you. I'm not challenging you. I'm trying to make the most of what we have. And so are we really doing the right thing?
Yeah, I think, and this is what I'm seeing with 7 CTOs is the CTO that has the strongest product bend, in my opinion, is the strongest CTO. They don't necessarily, they could own product in the sense that sometimes a product manager or director can report into them. But I think it's the CTO that is also really concerned with the actual product. Not just how do we implement, grow, scale, and unleash talent and get that, but also the intricacies of the why. Why are we doing this? And I see that more and more with startup CTOs.
That's really cool. I'm glad to hear that.
So when do you think, and this is a question I get a lot, when do you think a startup should start looking at having a product manager?
That's an interesting question, because so much of it, to your point, is often done between the founder and the technology leader, right? Because you tend to have a business person, and if it's a technology leader who's a CEO, they tend to look for a business or a marketing person, because you've got those two sides. So I would say, as long as someone is focused on customer, someone should wear that customer hat. Pick one. If it's your CEO and they're waving that customer flag, great. If they don't do that, your CTO needs to do it. To a point where you can get funded, I am not saying you've got to hire a product manager immediately. There's often other needs like sales. You've got to start getting things out there. But you need to have someone who says, I'm it. I'm wearing the customer flag. I'm going to ask those questions in the meetings.
And so for CTOs or any technology leaders who don't quite understand the role of the product manager, can it be distilled down to voice of customer?
It can. Fundamentally, we're not building for the business. We're not building for the market. We are building for the customer. And that's what you do. And if every single time you make a decision, you make it based on, is this solving a customer need? Then the answer should be yes. That's as simple as that.
And then that product manager can then do the observations and bring that data to the meeting, right?
Anybody can. You can have your salesperson, your account person. We insist, in my portfolio as an investor, people have to have a persona. It doesn't have to be a product manager who develops it, but you need to know who it is that you're solving for. And that person is sitting at the table with you virtually. And so you understand and they're part of the decisions that you make.
Is there a method for, I'm sure there is, but can you articulate some sort of voice of customer methodology that one can just do as a startup, as a young startup? I mean, yes, you can go and observe and stalk people. Are there other ways that's just sort of anecdotally that one can just do is it surveys? I mean, can you survey people?
I would not survey people. I mean, I think it's to your question and your point earlier that surveys are often what you write is loaded because you're trying to get a certain answer out, and the responses that you get are really just not enough to make a decision on. Surveys, I think, are just a broken way of talking to customers. So I would say create a persona. It's a really simple way of just think about psychographics versus demographics or anything else. Really think about what's driving them. What's their need? What are they looking for? What's the pain they're experiencing if your product is fulfilling a product pain, something in their lives? Understand that, and then find ways to talk to them so that you never go a sprint without having actually interacted with a customer. Those two pieces are really simple to bring into a process practice at any company, whether you're a Fortune 50 or whether you started yesterday. I just spent this morning with 15 students out of UCSD doing exactly this.
The customer,
the persona, helping them, because again, founders want big things. They speak in broad terms. They're excited. They paint a vision. They want to solve it for everybody. They want to make these billion-dollar businesses. But the way that you're successful is that you get really, really focused on solving a particular problem. You want someone to buy, right? You want someone to actually give you money. At that point, now you're onto something. And until then, it's just conjecture.
Yeah, you're right. And is naming my persona important?
Yes, it is. It is. And giving them, there's a personality to them. Find someone that you really feel like this is the person I wake up and I think about every day, and it's who I'm making decisions for.
I need to do that. I think my persona's name is Walter.
Okay. That's a nice South African name.
You still support the All Blacks?
I do. World champions. Yeah.
In many versions of the game. Dude, I just watched the World Cup Sevens.
Up 4 in San Francisco. Did you go up?
I didn't go. I just watched it on TV.
Cool.
So have you heard of the phrase product manager is the CEO of the product?
Yeah, I hate that.
Tell me more about that.
It's one of those things where your product manager sits and touches so many parts of the organization, right? Because you're at the core as a product. And so, you have to think about business, you have to think about marketing, you have to work with development, you have to think about support. And so it's really easy to say that you are touching all these pieces, but you're not the CEO. There is a CEO of the product who's making the business decisions. So there's implied executive power, which really there isn't. They don't have any. Most of the time, no one reports to a product manager. There's no authority. It's all influence. And CEOs aren't about influence. CEOs are about authority, right? And so are GMs and anything else like that. A product manager manages effectively through influence by being that voice of customer so that people will understand and listen. So my job, if we're working together as product and development, is to make sure that I give you enough information for you to be effective at what you do, and that I'm telling you through the voice of the customer exactly what we need. It's not my job to tell you a set of requirements or write down 60 pages and go, good luck, see you soon. Which is kind of what it's been reduced to a little bit, isn't it? Sometimes. And I think
go do the PRDs.
Yeah, exactly. And then come back when you've done, when you've got a list of requirements for me.
60-page wireframes.
And we got rid of waterfall. And now we've kind of gone into this world that we're writing endless user stories. And these user stories are now being built. But it's like, hang on a second, what are we trying to achieve, right? Who are we building this for? What difference are we going to make? Those are the questions a product manager should be able to answer, like the bigger, broader questions, not writing user stories so we can get work out. Now,
if I am the said CEO and we brought in our product manager, how will I know whether we're successful, whether that person is succeeding?
If they say no to about 80 to 90% of what you want to do. And they have a way of making good decisions. It's really easy to build because there's never there's endless amount of stuff you can build, right? But frankly, a good product manager knows how to say no. And if you believe and trust them, they're doing a good job.
In the eyes.
I know. He goes, yep, you've said no to me a few times.
You've said no to me many times. So you have you said you have an online platform?
Yeah.
Is it hosted with a learning management system tool? Is it like Kajabi or?
Actually, we use a product called Litmus. And it's a learning platform. And we wanted to get our product out very quick to market. And so it's a 12-week course on how to be a product manager. But we also have a 2-week customer foundations that a lot of our founders go through. And it really is a problem statement. What are you doing? A persona, who, and then how do you understand if you've got the need? And it's about 7 or 8 videos, 2 weeks, you're done, and you've got that platform. So. And
the other one's 7 weeks, right?
The other one is 12.
12 weeks.
12 weeks. But that's soup to nuts, true product management. It's product roadmaps and launches and customer research and learning plans and you name it.
And people, what's it called?
It's called Product Rebels.
.com.
I know, it's like, I've got to say it differently because someone thought I was saying ribbles and I'm saying rebels. So I have to practice my American accent.
I know. It's
hard for us.
That's why I told you that 7 CTOs was going to be 6 CTOs. And then the first person said to me, sick what? Sick CTO? I'm like, 6 CTOs. So I changed it to 7.
That makes sense.
And so are people signing, are there many solutions like this, or are you sort of market leader in this sort of online platform for product managers?
That's kind of you to ask. There's training platforms. The way we differentiate ourselves is that we want this training to stick. And so we have a blended learning approach. So there's 12 weeks online, and then once a week you get to get coached by an expert product leader, and you apply what you've done on your product and learnt, and you get feedback. So it's a way in 12 weeks that you've really done the work and not just been in a classroom learning the stuff. And so what we find is that our learning sticks. You have effective product managers who know now how to actually do the job of product management. So that's our success outcome, is that we want to create change. We want to create products that customers love. And so this blended approach, I think, is differentiated.
And who is your customer profile that signs up?
That is a great question. So our primary persona is a product manager. So we have a user who's the product manager, 1, 2, 3 years worth of experience. You don't go to university, you don't go to school for product management. And so you come into a job and you've got this title and you don't really know what you're doing. And so that's our user. Our buyer is that product leader who wants to quickly speed up his new recruit or his 1 to 2 year experienced PM and have them be experienced at the level of like a 7 or 8 year veteran of product management. So people who buy us are product leaders, people who use us are the product management team.
Now, so the buyer for the product management team. The differentiation between the buying and the user.
Yeah, it's a if you think about it in a B2B context, often we have users, right, who are hands on the app or the platform, and then you have the actual purchaser, the executive who is writing the check.
And they would write the check so that their team can go through your process.
Exactly.
Do you do accreditation?
We have a certificate at the end, but we're thinking through how could we be accredited.
Fascinating. I ask because, obviously I'm in the CTO training space.
Yeah. I think there's something we should talk about a bit more.
I like that a lot. So the weekly check-in, is it like a Zoom call or
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's a 1 hour Zoom call. The day before, people put in their deliverables. And the really cool thing is, like, often you do these deliverables, but you never get feedback because the training is finished. With us, you can iterate. So a persona sometimes takes 2-3 weeks to get right. You move along the curriculum, but you're actually practicing what you've learned against the product that you work on day to day.
So that's actual deliverables against their actual products.
And you end up with a product roadmap that is your product roadmap.
What advice would you have for CTOs who feel, especially the smaller companies, who feel like they need that, they want to spruce up their product management skill, like before they get to that place of actual pragmatic learning, but just they want to go into the next strategic meeting with a bit more of a product management focus? Is that the voice of customer, like what would my customer want, or are there other skills like empathy skills, or what skills can I spruce up on?
The easiest thing I'd say is, in your organization, someone is going to be talking to your customer, whether that's a salesperson or an account person, a customer support person. The easiest thing to do is just to say, could I listen in on a call, and just plug in. I mean, how simple is that? And you're not going to threaten anyone if you plug into a service call, or if you just hop on and listen to a salesperson, the way they're talking about something. That's the simplest way. Find a way to listen to your customer firsthand. And it will open your eyes. It really will.
And have you come across people who are afraid to ask their customers?
I don't think it's afraid. No, I think it's more, it feels like, we already know, or that's what our sales team is for, or that's not our job, or we're not allowed to because sales, accounts, management keeps us away from them. There's always like a reason that is, it's a coffee cooler, like this is the conventional wisdom of why we're not allowed to talk to customers. I can tell you that most people will welcome. You just got to figure out the way to do it effectively.
Is it also possible that the customer doesn't know?
The customer doesn't know?
That the customer doesn't know that they need your product. To educate, I mean, there is this space where you're educating the market as well. Like Uber, I guess, they had to educate the market that you could get into a car with a stranger and it would be okay.
I know, but the thing is, like, if you think about it, it's a need. I like the Airbnb story, right? Because Airbnb, in the beginning, it was more like a couch surfing type of application. And what they got to in terms of like people coming into homes and feeling like they could open up their homes was really kind of designing this experience that felt like you were kind of getting more of a hotel, like nice pictures, welcoming, feels like you have a connection with the owner. That changed. The need of getting sort of like reasonable priced accommodation all around the world hasn't gone away. But the way they backed themselves, they learnt into how it was effective and that need and how they met it. That's the beauty of the product, right? You can have a need and you can do all sorts of terrible solutions. It's the insight, the learning, the interpretation. That's a product manager job, but it starts with an understanding of the customer need. Then you experiment with solutions and see what actually clicks.
And that Airbnb basically went through that sort of iteration.
They did through it. They almost went broke because of the way that they were marketing. And it really, what unlocked it for them was taking really high quality, good pictures and making people feel like they knew what they were buying. And it wasn't just a description or a shitty little picture of a Polaroid or whatever it was. That you're like, I don't know where that is. I don't know if I want to stay there.
It's kind of dodgy.
It's kind of dodgy. But now when you look at 20 pictures and you get all the angles and you're like, yeah, I really understand that. And the communication, it unlocked for them this potential.
I feel like Airbnb is amazing for parties, for larger parties, travel parties. Did you guys Airbnb?
All the way through Europe.
You did that all the way through Scotland as well.
Yep. It's so much better than a hotel room.
The only downside was that the owner could call anytime and cancel. The owner of the place you were staying at, they can basically call you and say the place isn't available anymore.
They're probably not going to last very long if they do that.
But
Did you have that?
That's still a risk. I had it once.
Oh.
But it's still risky.
I've never had that happen to me. Might be you, Etienne.
Maybe she made up the story about her mom and cancer.
Oh no, it's so sad. Oh no.
I mean, I must say it was about 6 or 8 weeks before we went, so it wasn't like short notice, but
it was inconvenient.
We still had to scramble to then find another place.
I guess I've been lucky. Yes, that hasn't happened.
Tell me about CTOs.
My favorite people to work with. Really, it's life doesn't work, right? Your products don't get made without your CTO. And tell me what you want to know. We could go anywhere.
I would like to know, sort of, if you reflect, maybe from your platform or from even your own experience. Two things I want to get at is when have you had a nice synergy? What has the CTO brought to the table where you felt like, wow, this is really working well?
Yeah.
You don't have to use me as an example. And when have you felt like, man, this is really going nowhere because of these traits that the CTO maybe is not getting or brings to the table, or some concepts that they're not getting? I basically want to be able to tell CTOs or give them some insight into the best and the worst ways to work with someone who represents customer in the form of a product manager.
That's easy, and I'll use you as an example of
which one?
The first one. Like it's all good.
And the second one.
No, we won't go there on live. But the things that you bring to the table that I was really delighted by was this huge curiosity about the customer, right? You really wanted to know. It wasn't, okay, tell me what you need and like let me kind of go and get it done. You really wanted to know. You came to sessions, you talked to customers, right? You was passionate about that. That's number one. Number two is that you brought the engineers to meetings. And a lot of CTOs want to protect their team. And so they're the face and they think that's their job, to sort of be that shield between anyone else in the business and their developers. And the fact that you had them at the table and they listened and they learned, they were at some of our live places, again, I think is a huge best practice, because it accelerated our ability to just talk about the product, because they knew exactly what it was. They saw the problems. They were fixing it firsthand. They were a customer support on some of these calls and they were fixing it as they were talking. So I think the ability to be confident enough to bring your team in is huge.
I like that.
And then the third thing that I'll say makes a really great partnership is that when you come up with creative solutions too, like they're the creative group, I'm going to be the development group. It's like, no, let's draw, let's work together, let's collaborate, because frankly, that makes a great partner, because thinking about the architecture, thinking about how things are going to change, there's certain limitations. And so that partnership, again, it's hugely collaborative, makes things faster. So I said those three things, you knocked it out of the ballpark. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You read that off the script perfectly. Tyler, by the way, did you hear all those compliments?
Yeah, I sent it over to her in PDF.
He did,
thank
yeah.
you. The co-founder
Did I
of
read it right?
The co-founder of Lash, by the way, behind the. No, I think I resonate with that. I speak with, having spoken to many CTOs. I think sometimes there's it's hard for them to own, especially ones who aren't co-founders. The ownership of the outcome of the product, to own that, I think it's sometimes it's a process where it's got to become part of you. And I think the C-suite working on, hey, CTO, you're not just there to implement, but you're there to really come up
You're
with
a business
creative
owner.
solutions.
That's right. And you own this just as much as anyone else.
So if you go to the second category, I know it sucks, but just some advice or some gentle sort of some ways in which you've seen it flounder. I guess it's the opposite of all of this, but
it kind of is. But I'll say the worst case for me was when there's a sense that I think it's insecurity and needing to know all this information, needing to know everything that you're doing. Be in all of these meetings, and you're like, I've got stuff to do. Like, there's a trust, right? Let me kind of get to a point where it sort of makes sense, and then collaborate, because frankly, there's like, it's making the food. There's things that you're trying and you're working through. But come with me to the customers because you want to observe together. So it's when both of those things clash. It's like, I need to know everything. You need to have it more polished. And no, I'm not coming into the customers with you because that's your job. It's kind of like you ding it at every level. It doesn't feel like a partnership. It feels the insecurity is just kind of coming into the relationship, and then it just doesn't make for a great working relationship. And unfortunately, I've had some of those, and it's just really hard to work through, because you can be as open as possible, but it's still messy. You're still going to experiment and test, and sometimes you want your developers in there, and it's not because, again, there's not a trust. It's be confident enough to bring your team along with you. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think especially when it comes to empathy and sort of passion about the customer, there are emotions involved, and I think heated discussions where you're either building up trust or you're destroying that.
Exactly.
And you can either choose which way to go.
Exactly. Choose trust.
I come. So let's talk about this thing you co-founded called Ad Astra.
Cool.
Tell me about the passion you have for female entrepreneurship.
No, I'd love to.
Is it okay to say female, or should I say woman entrepreneurship?
You can say either. I don't think I have I don't care. Okay. So the background, really briefly, is that I've been involved in the startup scene here in San Diego for some time, and we just don't see enough women coming through. And so when you have sort of 50, 60, up to 100 entrepreneurs applying to an accelerator or an incubator, it's a handful of women. And so why is it? Why aren't women applying? Why aren't they stepping up? And so there's all these things that seem much more focused in the startup area. And you can take a look at corporate and you say very few women, there's a glass ceiling, very few women executives and so forth, but it seems so much more exaggerated in the startup area. And so we wanted to look at that more carefully. And so we formed Ad Astra as a accelerator focused on female founders to primarily help them with leadership. Actually, that's where it's ended up. Rather than it be focused on the curriculum, which is where we started, like any accelerator, with a small female factor, we are in the process of actually changing it. So it's really 50% leadership, how you show up, how you ask for money, how you work with developers, how you work with a mainly male investment and development team, and give people the confidence to make decisions and to be able to talk about their products effectively and to get money. So that's what Ad Astra is about. And
how many people have you enrolled or accepted in the program?
So because
it's your first year, right?
It's our first year. We've had one cohort finish, we had 70 women, 70, apply for the very first one, which blew us away. We took 10 through a design sprint, which was our version of a due diligence process. And then we asked 3 to join us. So from 70 to 3, it's a pretty big funnel. And our second cohort is in the process of applications right now. It's life sciences. So I think by the time this airs, it'll be too late, but we're looking for life science companies.
So the first cohort, was it SaaS companies?
It was all sorts.
Have they graduated? Are they?
They have graduated. Okay. Yep. We had one that is an app. We had one that's a B2B. And then we had one which is actually it's a drink. It's actually a supplement. And
now you want to focus, for this cohort, you want to do life sciences.
We are doing life sciences. We actually got asked to do life sciences because of San Diego. It's such a life science community. We're partnering with Athena, which is a strong women's network, executive network in San Diego. And so we're launching life sciences.
Do you know any women CTOs?
I wish I did. I don't know. And you asked me this, and I don't know any women CTOs. Isn't that sad? I know some women engineers, engineering leaders and VPs, but no female CTOs.
So something I started because I'm not busy enough is Women Who CTO. And so it's in the spirit of trying and failing fast, not failing fast, but iterating quickly. I went to meetup.com and I created Women Who CTO. And I kind of want to take the code school approach of anybody can code to basically saying any woman can be a CTO. Mostly because in 7 CTOs, I cannot find women CTOs. And so I decided if I can't find them, I'm just going to start attracting people who are interested in one-day leading. And then let's just start the conversation, whether it's leadership training or inspirational stories or tactical things. And I went from 0 to 100 people joining in probably 3 weeks.
That's fantastic.
And at our first meetup, we had 22, 23 women show up.
I'm so proud of you. That's fantastic.
And for me, if I can, so talking about a funnel, if I can whittle that down to maybe working closely as 7 CTOs with, 5 or 6 women who they might not even have their first technical job. I don't care. I'm going to stop caring about where they are and what they've accomplished. And I'm just going to start saying, hey, you are a CTO. We just have to develop it.
That's fantastic. I love that. That's amazing. 100 women signed up. That's fantastic.
Well, I think it's relatively easy to sign up to join a group on meetup.com, right?
It doesn't matter though, but you have to be attracted to the subject.
20 people showed up. And we have our next one that's we're gonna have it pretty soon. And and that's what I love about Ad Astra, is just saying, hey, we're not satisfied with the number of women-led startups. We're just going to make it happen.
Yeah, let's just get going. Let's start. And then we've got to get our founders and the women CTOs together.
And you know what I was thinking was, what if we have them collaborate? So even if I have a couple of women who are nowhere near CTO level, but they are mentored strongly by someone who is a CTO, and then have the mentors learn how to lead through influence, and then have those women be let's call it an apprenticeship CTO role.
I think that's
brilliant. And then
it's got to start.
Let them learn on the job.
I think it's fantastic.
It's always awesome to be able to know that if I don't know the answers, there's someone I can ask.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes as executives or as CTOs or C-suites, we think we have to know all the answers. That in and of itself has landed us the role when nothing could be further from the truth.
It's funny, isn't it? You kind of get to the point, and I think it happens around the director level, where you got there because of what you know, and then from director on up to VP to C-level to etc. It's really how you work with others, and it's a hard transition to make. Absolutely.
Because, kind of what got you there,
it's not going to get you there. Yeah, exactly.
Vidya, thank you.
That was
It
fun.
was fantastic. I feel like we just got started. So we'll see you at the conference.
Absolutely.
And
I can't wait.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so
Cheers.
much.
Have you chatted with a CTO lately? Hi, thank you for listening to the CTO Studio. If you don't mind, take a quick second and please rate and review the show. It helps us a lot. Go to the ctostudio.com for more information on what we're doing at 7 CTOs. We also have a video or two for you that could be a helpful resource for you as you're managing your company. So thank you for listening.